Alrighty. You made it back. We're back here. We're all together again for another episode, another week. This is Booksmart Life Dumb number 2. And so last week I talked a bit about what I wanted to talk about this week, talking about looking up odd sayings. Building off of that, I wanted to also talk about funny mishaps that happen in films, because that got brought up. And, you know, I just wanted to see what all was out there and what I could offer and what I could look up. A week is a long time. And with that comes, I don't want to say distractions, but with that comes new things that happen, new things that approach. And so while I want to sit here and methodically plan out what my whole week is going to look like for research and things to write down and topics to talk about and things that interest me, at the same time, I don't know, it's a life journal, you know, it all kind of changes day by day. And I'll kind of circle back to that a little bit. But one thing I did find myself doing this past week while I was at work was I started to get ear tired a little bit. Just listening to podcasts. I'll usually listen to podcasts or catch up on entire podcasts, you know, things of that nature, just to help the time go by while I can. And with that, I found myself starting to kind of get fatigued out of just listening to people talk. And so I actually started digging really deep into my library on Spotify, looking for albums that I haven't listened to in a long time. And these were albums like Define the Great Line from Underoath, Mirrors from Misery Signals, Copacetic from Knuckle Puck. A lot of these more heavier or more pop punky kind of albums I haven't listened to in a while. Those 3 albums specifically reminded me of a concept that I absolutely fell in love with in music. The idea of being able to start an album at the beginning and listen to the entire thing all the way through and to just be in those last 10 seconds of that final song and feel like I can lean back and have listened to an entire experience. Rather than just a collection of songs from a band, but more so a more cohesive, singular, large art piece. And then I started to think more about the concept of properly wrapping up a project and properly ending things. And this is where I'm going to circle back to what I was talking about earlier about how things just kind of crop up throughout the week. I was doing my research. I was doing my thing. I have a few rotation of different podcasts I listen to. I like to listen to Morning Somewhere. Comes out every weekday. It's a great way to start my mornings off. I like to listen to the Regulation podcast, formerly known as Face. Also, you know, 100% Eat, a lot of these other ones. Was it Dungeons and Daddies is a great comedy live play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. If you want to give that a shot, if Dungeons and Dragons has ever piqued your interest just to see what that is, while I will say that podcast is not exactly Dungeons and Dragons, it is a hell of a time and an awesome story. And another podcast that I would listen to once a week was a podcast called So All Right. It was very similar to this one. The podcast that showed me that podcasts like these exist, where it is just a collection of thoughts of a single individual explored upon and researched upon and presented to you, the listener. And I went to go listen to last week's episode, and the episode was titled Goodbye. It was twice as long as any other episode. It was the host, Jeff, going through and talking about his reasoning for wanting to end the podcast, for why he's going to end the podcast, but also went on to talk about not letting things just fall to the wayside, actually putting in a proper ending, a proper outro to these things. Which reminded me again of the music I had just been listening to the days previous. And it's an interesting concept, I think, from the standpoint of somebody who's had their hand in the pot of content creation for a decade and a half at this point and has been closely watching as the internet evolved over time. I think that in the interest of creating a larger collection of works, whether that be videos, whether that be podcasts, live streams, so on and so forth. I mean, this is even something in movies, TV, books. Proper endings are the proper way to do things. I'm not ending this. I know it kind of seems like that's where I'm going with it, but it's just you see it a lot where, especially in like live streaming, where people will, hit that go live button. They'll go out there, they'll do their thing for a handful of hours. And then at the end of it, they're like, all right, chat, I'll see you next time. And next time never happens. Not to say that you have a large group of people just kind of with their hands empty now all of a sudden. Where is the next stream? What is the next thing? There are usually things that are communicated afterwards on social media or in their discords, etc. But there's just something about knowing that there's going to be a last hurrah. There's something about knowing that this is the last show of the tour. This is the final episode of the season. This is going to be my last live stream. This is the end of the trilogy of movies. There's something sentimental and something about that makes that experience from the start so much more enriching. You have people there experiencing the moment. You have there people enjoying it. People are laughing. People are crying. People are feeling a certain type of way. Or someone's just showing up and just ready to kind of give you that last nod, that last, hey, thanks for everything. I hope I see you again soon. And it's bittersweet, but there's something about bittersweetness that feels just so enriching. And also it's just one of those things that comes with it. I don't know. And when I listen to these albums again, like to Find a Great Line, for instance, it's such a great album from how it starts, how it's in your face. The first lyrics of that album are wake up, wake up, wake up. And you go through this entire journey of over a collection of several songs, high points, slower low points, and it all just wraps itself up into that last song, To Whom It May Concern, where it's almost as if it's a perfect recap of everything your ears just went through for the last however long that album is. And then it stops. And then you have those last notes and that fade out. You're listening to the ringing of the guitars, the wind down of an organ, the ringing out of cymbals, and it just slowly fades out, and you just take that moment and you just let out a huge breath. I feel like I'm somebody who has a special connection to music in that way, not just because of my upbringing and because of, who I've surrounded myself with throughout my life, but because of just like these emotions that I feel when I listen to music, not because I can resonate with the lyrics and because I can put myself into these stories, but because they're great stories being told. It's something I learned to appreciate about movies as well when I was growing up. There's just something about really good storytelling. Hell, I mean, I spend most of my days after work, when I don't have extra work I need to do for any of this stuff, I'm out there streaming and doing role play with several friends, and it's a blast, and it's a lot of improv. But there are some periods where you end up telling these stories and you start to get to these high points, these low points, etc. And it's brought me to tears sometimes. I mean, there are songs that will make me get worked up. There are movies that I find myself tearing up in. And there are video games that when I get to the end of them, when I get to the end of Marvel's Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 from Insomniac, when I get to that final handful of cutscenes, I am bawling my eyes out every time because it is such a damn good story. That game is a nail in the coffin as to why Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I was already very much into Spider-Man at this point. Those Tobey Maguire films that came out were so good and were such like a part of like growing up. I feel like for me were those movies. I love the Andrew Garfield movies. The Tom Holland movies have been great. But when I played that game from start to finish, I recognized that it is probably the best Spider-Man story ever told. I definitely could do an entire episode just talking about that game. I definitely could spend 30 minutes rambling about it, talking about how fun it is to play, how good the story beats are, how they make, characters X, Y, and Z, and how you connect with them, and how they progress a story in such like perfect ways, and blah, 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 blah. Maybe I'll do that at some other point. Maybe I'll write that down in my book for just in case somehow I don't have something to talk about on here. But to kind of circle it all back to Jeff, thank you so much for So All Right as a podcast. Thank you for being quite literally the first. What is it? And it's another thing I'm gonna have to put in the odd sayings column. The first stake in the construction of what would become Booksmart Lifedom. I appreciate the many years of content, from everything from Rooster Teeth way back in the early days when I was just a kid, was fumbling around on the internet and found this funny thing called Red versus Blue, staying up until the wee hours, watching it, finding it on Google videos of all things, not even on the website, not even like through osmosis of a friend. So all the way to today, post Rooster Teeth, post Achievement Hunter, now fully ingrained in regulation. And as you get older and as you progress through life and you change, the audience grows with you. And I'm now a 30-year-old doing all this stuff and figuring it out. And I was just talking about, literally less than an hour before I sat down to record, about how I wish I had more time. And it was said to me that I need to figure out how to manage my time, which somehow I just didn't even think about. To put rambling away and to put a nice bow on that topic. Thank you a million. It's a great podcast. It's still up if you want to go back and listen to it. The episodes are pretty good. Topics that are brought up in there are very good. It's a similar formula to what I try to employ here. I don't know. It's just a collection of thoughts, and it's great. And I think to build off of that and to wipe the tears from my eyes, I guess we could go back to some of the things I did want to talk about last week that I never did get around to talking about. And one of those being, what is Booksmart Lifedom? What does that mean? Where does it come from? So my father and my mother, when they were younger, before I was born, my father would actually call my mom. He would tell her that she is book smart and life dumb because, street smarts, etc. It's something to that effect. Book smart, street dumb, one of the two things. And it was just something that, like, it didn't get like passed along to me, but it was brought up to me just kind of through conversations with my mother, talking about how to navigate life and situations, and being like such like a sponge for knowledge when it came to things that like my silly little autistic brain would hyperfixate on. I could sit here and tell you all day long about the production of the live action Ninja Turtles movies in the 90s. I could tell you about how The Outsiders was a movie that came out after the original trilogy of Star Wars, which blows my mind because I feel like The Outsiders came out like way earlier than that. But I could drone on about what seems like useless topics, completely jam-packed with so much information. You didn't even know that was even possible, that there was so much context behind these things. But then when I need to sit down, I need to talk to you about social situations and how to interact with human beings, or how to, I don't know, sit down and go get a mortgage, or just how to just go about everyday life, how to deal with the one-off weird things, how to interact with people, how to interact with awkward situations, things of that nature. I can give you some good recommendations, but boy, howdy do I not know the answers. And so when I was sitting down and I wanted to make this podcast, and I've been wanting to make it for several months at this point, I want to say probably half a year, I couldn't come up with a title. I couldn't sit down and think about something. Do I just call it, just the Adsno podcast, and talking about like my online, handle being Adsno? Do I call it something else to that effect? Do I make it a play on words? Do I do what like bands do, where like they name their band after a song from a band that inspired them, or, you know, things of that nature? And then it dawned on me that I had the perfect name for a podcast that describes not only myself, but also my family, my inspirations in my life, being my parents, literally in front of me since the first time it was probably ever told to me when I was like 12 or something. Booksmart, Life Dumb. I could drone on about all these topics. They're in a book somewhere, probably. They're all written down facts. They're in a video essay these days, I guess. But if I don't know, you will never find me out here giving life advice or anything like that. I don't know. It just feels right. It's one of those things that just feels right. Speaking of life advice, season 2 of Show aired last night, and that went off with about as many hitches as you would expect for that show. Being that the program we used to bring on guests was not working properly. Oh, well. But I had a blast. 90-minute episodes of palling around, talking to friends, being able to allow ourselves to get into the conversational pocket and take what is being presented and form conversations around that. It's some of my favorite stuff that I do all week. It's a pain to edit sometimes, but it is a labor of love. It's also available on Spotify and on YouTube. There's something about that versus me just talking on a one headpiece, not one headpiece, but on a solo podcast, right? Is that I'm sitting here, I have my notebook in front of me. The pages for Booksmart Life Dumb are way more filled than they would be for Show. I mean, my page for Show, I have several things crossed out because it's just whatever. But they are production notes. They are who is on what audio channel. They are names for the titles of the episodes that I come up with while we're all talking to each other. And then they are topics that I couldn't figure out a way to segue to at all. It's interesting. It's fun. But it's still fun. I mean, Booksmart Life Dumb is me sitting here just chit chatting and being able to fill the air while keeping myself interested in what I'm talking about. I mean, this recording prior to it being edited is already 21 minutes long. I feel like I've been here for about 5. And I'm staring forward at my monitor, not looking at DaVinci Resolve as it records everything, but staring at it as if I'm talking to somebody. I'm moving my hands around. I'm making gestures. I'm talking to the audience. It's interesting. It's something I don't know. It's only the words are fucking tongue twisters today, man. I'm sitting here. I'm making gestures. I'm looking as if I'm looking to another person. I'm making expressions on my face. It's something that I'm only halfway doing the second episode on, but I'm already in love with it because I just love talking to people. It's why I love roleplay. It's why I love improv. It's why I love doing show. It's why I started a second podcast. It's why even though I hate jobs in customer service, I never shied away from them because I got to talk to people. I got to talk to people all day long, and those people become regulars, and you become not only a part of their lives, but their lives become a part of yours. I mean, where I work now, I don't really interact with a lot of people, but there is one person I interact with on a daily basis, pretty much. He asks me how I'm doing. He remembers what we talked about the day previous. I remember what he talked about the day previous, and we have a little chit chat. And I don't really have all the time in the world to talk to people, but the times that I do get to talk and the time that I do get to spend where I get to see him and I say hi, that's a bright 5 minutes in my day. It's not the best part of my day, but it's definitely a brighter 5 minutes of my day. And I think that's what a lot of things kind of boil down to. If I were to build a tangent off of a tangent, is that I think I'm finding as I get older and as I deal with the more mundane things, the things that adults always seem to groan about when I was younger, and now I find myself doing all of those, I look for the brighter moments in my day. And again, you can look at it and it can feel kind of sad, you know. Life's so dark that you have to go find like the nicer things. It's like, no, not really. It's all about that, right? I think that's what this whole thing is about. This big spinning rock of billions of people doing their thing, trying their hardest, living their lives. We all have to exist with each other. It's nice when people allow that to happen. People allow you to exist with them. Those are the brighter moments, for damn sure. This one feels like it's going to be a bit shorter, but I don't know. I don't strive for these episodes to be too short. I try to shoot for 25 minutes on these, but I did find myself a bit abruptly busy this week, so I do apologize about that. Starting up another podcast, there's a lot of pre-production that goes into that. There's a lot of work that exists prior to it all. And so thankfully I was able to get the required things done prior to recording last night's episode. And it's a live podcast too, so there's not too much editing for the brunt of the people who are going to watch Show and listen to Show. They all watch it live. I would say 95% of that audience watches it as it happens live on Twitch. But I still put in the work and I still put in, the hours it takes to put it up on other platforms because it's archiving too. It's something nice to have. But also I'm just working on other things, like learning more about what the model for Patreon looks like for people who want to support podcasts like Show, and how to deal with all the fine minutia of that. What kind of things do we want to offer to our audience, as supplemental content? Do we want to offer anything substantial? Do we want to do more than double what we're already doing? And it all boils down to personal preferences and tastes and honestly audience feedback as well. And so that's what my next week is going to look like, aside from working my 40-hour a week job, aside from doing all my side work, and aside from streaming. So I'll make sure to write down more things in my notebook and do more research and everything that I do want to do. But until then, I will see you next week. I hope you have a beautiful week. These episodes are going to start coming out on Monday mornings. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you all again to start off your next one. Remember to exist with each other. If you can find it within yourself, maybe do your best to be the bright moment of somebody else's day. That's your homework. But until then, see you all for episode 3 next week. Bye-bye.